I keep seeing stars everywhere. They're on my Pinterest, they're on my Instagram. It's a trend. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well today. So today I'm going to be sharing how to make paper stars 3 different ways. I actually teamed up with Cricut for this video, and I'm going to be jumping into Design Space and showing you guys how I custom design my own stars. The first star kind of looks like a Starburst to me. It's really easy to make. It's literally just like folding a fan. And yeah. The second star is, well, it looks to me more like a snowflake. The third design is actually super smooth and sleek, and I just wanted jumbo size in this star, so I'll be showing you guys how I made that. Okay, let's jump right in. To make my super easy starburst, I opened up Design Space, and under shapes, I chose the tall triangle. I made sure it measured 1 inch in width and copied another triangle from it. I then unlocked the resize option and edited the height at the top to 3 inches. Next, I highlighted them and copied and pasted a row of them until there was a total of 11. I tried to make sure they're as straight as possible because this is important for later on. I then copied and pasted another row. While the second row was still selected, I chose the option vertical under the flip options at the top. I positioned it below and then selected both rows together and made sure that the overall size of this design measured about 10.5 inches in width and height. I then added a rectangle to fill the space in the center. And to combine all these pieces into one whole piece, I selected everything and chose the option weld. You'll notice how all the cut lines disappeared. Now it's one whole piece. Before adding any intricate designs, I like to change my color to something lighter so I could see what I'm adding, or it's just easier for me to design this way. Under shapes, I chose the thin line option, which is actually a scoring tool. I then created score lines where I would be making folds in the star. Okay, on to the fun stuff. Cricut got so many new shapes that you can use to create any custom design you want. I started off by adding diamond shapes to the tops of the star. This can actually become a very lengthy process if you don't copy and paste properly. The idea is to copy and paste a pattern instead of adding each little piece separate. After adding a row of designs, I simply hold Shift on my keyboard and carefully click on which design I want selected. You could then use your keyboard for shortcuts. To copy, I simply push Command C on my Mac computer. And to paste, I push Command V. I'm sure it's different on Windows. If you have a Windows, you can Google the instructions for copy and paste. Before continuing to add more designs, I needed to find the center of my star. I went ahead and added a score line to the middle of the design. This will also be great reference when you're assembling the star. If you're not sure where the center is, simply click somewhere along the edges of the design or highlight the whole piece, and you'll see a small cross indicator showing where the center is. I added a few more designs to the center of the star using the copy-paste pattern method and moved on to filling the space above. Under shapes, I found this dash. If you slightly position it diagonally and enlarge it, it will just become bigger. But I figured this out, that if you actually unlock it and try to resize it, you can warp the shape. So I actually made them kind of look like thin little leaves this way and carefully added a row of them along the scoring line. I tried not to add them too close to the scoring line because then it's hard to fold when you're assembling your star. Okay. And that's it. My design was ready to be cut. I chose the option cut on mat because I was using regular cardstock on a standard grit mat. So don't forget your scoring pen for this design. It makes the folding and assembling process so much easier. If you're not familiar with this pen, it creates indented lines for cleaner folds. Okay, I love it when I don't have to weed a ton. I only had to clean up a tiny bit of the star design because the mat pretty much took care of it. To assemble this star, I started by folding along the score lines, just like folding a paper fan. To secure it in the center, I grabbed a bit of floral wire and used my center score line as a guide for making sure that the wire is secured center. I then used my handy glue gun and glued both ends together. You might need to kind of spread the star a bit because it's a bit tight, but you just neatly glue those edges together, and that's it. That is literally how easy it is to put this star together. I love that you can get like those varying heights along the edges with the Cricut machine. I think this way it gives the star such a pretty burst effect. Before we continue on to the next DIY, I want to remind you to subscribe if you aren't already. Okay, on to the next design. This one is definitely a bit more intricate than the Starburst. I hope you learned something new from this design process. I know I sure did. In Design Space, I chose the diamond shape and unlocked the resize option. I made the width 2.16 and the height 5.90. I then used the heart shape and positioned two diagonally facing each other and overlapping. Kind of what looks like two scallops along the edges. Next, in images, I searched for dotted lines and came across these pretty brown dots. The only problem was I didn't need the whole row of dots, so I needed to somehow crop it. Design Space does not offer the option to crop, but there is a quick little hack that I'm going to show you guys that I learned. Under shapes, I dragged and dropped a square over onto the dots that I didn't plan on using. I then selected the dots with the square and chose the option slice. You'll notice some of the dots become a part of the square and are now separated from the 4 dots that I needed. You can just delete the other dots that you don't need and use the 4 that you need. An easy way to crop. I resized and positioned the dots where I wanted them along the edges and highlighted the whole diamond shape with all the designs on it and chose the option weld. And again, you'll notice that all of my cut lines disappear and it becomes a solid piece. Now I was ready to start creating some pretty designs in the center of my diamond. I went ahead and changed the color to something lighter so I could see what I'm designing and started messing around with different shapes that Cricut has to offer. I needed a thin leaf, so I went into images and found this really thin green leaf. I then slightly turned it and unlocked the resize button to reshape the leaf a bit. To design this star, I pretty much used the same copy and paste method that I did when I created my Starbursts. I added a row of these leaves and then copied and pasted them. First, making sure that the top portion of the design was done. Then I actually copied and pasted it to fill up the bottom portion so that my design was complete for the diamond. I moved the diamond back behind my designs and selected the whole thing and copied and pasted it and moved it to the side. I usually do this just in case when I'm working with so much detail, I don't want to lose it if I somehow mistakenly mess this one up. Again, I selected the whole diamond and chose the option attach. I then copied and pasted another one. Now, to make this star somewhat 3D, I took a square and as straight as I could align it along the side of the bottom half of my diamond, I attached what looked like a tab that measured about 3/4 of an inch in width. I then aligned the other diamond next to it and added 2 more tabs along both sides of the diamonds. Okay, now the tricky part. In order for these tabs not to get cut off, I want them to be one whole piece. I need to weld them. So I had to right click on each diamond and detach for a second in order to combine the layers under. I moved the diamond backing and the 3 strips below out of the way. Then I right clicked and chose the option weld to make it all solid. And before adding the details back onto them, I added the score lines where the folds would be. Then I positioned the piece back under the designs and that's it. It's all ready to be cut. Now I just copied and pasted this 9 times and loaded my cardstock to get cut. When working with bigger projects like this that have a lot of intricate cuts, it sometimes takes a little bit longer to load. I chose medium cardstock under cut options and Cricut did all the work. To assemble it all together and make it 3D, I folded it where all the core lines were to assemble the star. Because some of my fold lines were so close to the cuts, I actually used this spatula, the only one I could find. It's not the cleanest one, but hey, it works. Once I folded everything in, here's what it looked like. I first added a dab of glue at the top to glue the tabs together. Then I moved on to the bottom and secured the bottom. And I repeated these steps until all 9 pieces were done. Okay, now to secure all the pieces, hot glue them all together one by one. That's it. Here's how the snowflake inspired star looks. This reminds me of those very beautiful paper lanterns I've seen online. I just love that like very detailed, intricate look. I was a bit worried the design would be overwhelming, but honestly, I'm in love. I think this star is definitely my favorite of the three. Okay, last but not least, this simple 8-point star in a giant size. Under projects in Design Space, I searched for star and came across these beauties. You can change the size if you want them bigger. I actually changed it to be as big as they can fit on a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. Each cut makes up for 1 point of the star, and each piece has tabs on all the edges except one, and they all need to be folded in. When folding these stars, I actually noticed that it works best if you have the score lines facing you while folding on a flat surface. It's almost like the folds pop right into place this way, and it only takes me like 10 to 15 seconds to do each point this way. Now, to assemble each point, I started by adding hot glue to the top of each tab. I secured that first, then I did a thin line of hot glue along the rest of the tab and closed the point up. All the points are secured, it's time to assemble the star. I added hot glue to one side of the tabs and secured another point to it. It should look like a pair of horns at this point. I then continued to secure each point, building up the star. It helps if your tabs are not folded in too much so that they actually touch each other when the glue is on there. And I make sure that I know which point I'm gonna pick before I add the hot glue, because the hot glue dries really fast. When I was attaching the last point, I noticed that the gap was a bit too big, but it actually cinched in really nicely, and it even pulled in the center of the star together as well, making it look like really neat in the center. That's it. Here's how the big star turned out. I love how clean it looks, even though my folds weren't perfect. I honestly thought they would be noticeable because I had to refold some areas and it was looking like a hot mess at one point, but it's not that visible at all. This wall feels so fancy. You guys, I had so much Instagram inspiration that I had saved, dreaming of getting a similar look. I love how this turned out. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and liked it. I think that's it. Oh, let me know in the comments down below which star was your favorite. Okay, I'll see you all next time. Bye.